a problem with a player being asked or looked at as the most valuable player when he dominates the ball on one end of the court, and we just focus on what he does offensively. We have to look at him on both sides of the ball. And I'm not saying he don't play defense, but he doesn't play it to the same level. Dominate the ball that much on the on offense, then you have to show some dominance on the defensive end. And that's what I like about guys like a Paul George.
The moment Scottie Pippen says something about LeBron James, the basketball world stops and listens. But this time, it isn't just criticism. It's a direct challenge to LeBron's legacy. When Pippen says LeBron has never faced real pressure, it isn't a casual opinion. It's a challenge to everything LeBron has built over the last 2 decades. The real question is whether there's any truth behind those words, or if this is simply another chapter in the ongoing battle between the old school and the new school. Here's the part that nobody is talking about. When Pippen speaks about real pressure, he isn't just talking about the playoffs. He's talking about an era. The 90s were extremely physical. Hand-checking was allowed, defenses played much tougher, and stars like Michael Jordan were expected to dominate without the spacing, freedom, or offensive rules that exist today. In Pippen's view, pressure wasn't about media stories or Twitter debates. It was about taking contact on nearly every possession and still producing at the highest level. So when he looks at LeBron, he doesn't see the same kind of battle. He sees a different game with different rules and, in his opinion, less pressure.
These remarks by Danny Ainge were incredibly irresponsible. First of all, he has a history of throwing unsolicited shots at LeBron, right? So if you remember 6 years ago when Pat Riley put out the official team statement telling Danny Ainge to go bleep himself, basically, that was because Danny Ainge said this on a local radio hit in Boston about LeBron complaining about officiating.
But let's look at the full picture, because saying LeBron has never faced pressure sounds hard to believe when you examine his career. He entered the NBA with the nickname The Chosen One before he had even played his first game. He led the Cleveland Cavaliers to the NBA Finals at the age of 22. He made the decision and instantly became one of the most criticized athletes in sports. He promised championships with the Miami Heat and then had to deliver while facing relentless scrutiny. After that, he returned to Cleveland and helped bring the franchise its first championship in decades by defeating a record-setting 73-win team. If that isn't pressure, then what is? This is where the discussion becomes more complicated, because many people confuse the type of pressure with the amount of pressure. The pressure during Jordan's era was mostly physical. The pressure during LeBron's era has been psychological, driven by the media and nonstop. In the past, a bad performance could disappear from the headlines within a few days. Today, one poor game can dominate the conversation for 48 hours, and one missed shot can spread across the internet in minutes. Every move, every comment, and every statistic is analyzed the moment it happens. LeBron hasn't just played basketball. He spent more than 20 years performing under constant public attention. It's a different kind of pressure, but it's still pressure.
LeBron being asked to do more. When are we going to acknowledge that LeBron actually half the time doesn't play that much defense?
Now let's take a closer look at what Pippen may actually be saying, because there's a deeper point behind his comments. During the 1990s, star players usually stayed with one team, build intense rivalries, and endure repeated playoff defeats before finally winning a championship. Michael Jordan lost to the Detroit Pistons several times before finally getting past them. Those setbacks became part of the story. The belief was that you had to keep climbing the same mountain until you finally reached the top. LeBron's career followed a different path. He changed teams, entered new situations, and had more control over his career than many players from earlier generations ever did. To some old school players, that can look like avoiding pressure instead of facing it. But here's the part many people ignore. LeBron didn't avoid pressure. He accepted it. When he joined the Miami Heat, the expectations became even greater. From that point on, winning every season became the standard, and anything less was viewed as a disappointment. Returning to Cleveland wasn't a simple decision either. He took on the challenge of bringing a championship to a city that had been waiting for decades. Later, when he joined the Los Angeles Lakers, the pressure didn't disappear. It simply changed. The focus became his legacy, his longevity, and proving that he could still compete at the highest level late in his career.
Has a problem politically with the president. I'm talking about there's a personal dislike between the two. He knows what he's doing there, and that ain't right. And it's there's no comparison really, because you're talking about one person maybe talking themselves up in LeBron's case, but he's not out of the question.
This is where many young players usually get it wrong. They think pressure only exists in one moment. They believe it's all about the NBA Finals, Game 7, or taking the last shot. But real pressure lasts much longer. It's carrying expectations for 20 straight years without a break. It's being compared to Michael Jordan every season. It's having every loss remembered more than every win. LeBron's career hasn't been defined by a few pressure-filled moments. It's been one continuous test of pressure. Now, let's look at the numbers for a moment. LeBron has reached the NBA Finals 10 times. That alone brings a level of pressure that most players never experience. He's played in Game 7s, elimination games, and must-win situations with different teams across multiple eras. His career includes memorable performances, from Game 7 of the 2016 Finals to his 2018 playoff run, and many clutch moments along the way. It's difficult to argue that someone can perform in so many high-pressure situations without facing real pressure. At the same time, Pippen's criticism does have a point. Today's NBA is more offense-oriented. The rules offer players more protection, and the game is faster, more spaced out, and less physically demanding in certain ways. That changes how pressure is experienced on the court. It's harder to wear down a superstar physically the way teams often did during the 1990s. So when Pippen says LeBron hasn't faced real pressure, he may be referring to that non-stop physical battle that defined his own era. Even so, pressure changes with time. It doesn't disappear. Today's players deal with social media, worldwide attention, contract expectations, and the demands of building a personal brand in ways previous generations never had to experience. LeBron isn't only a basketball player. He's also a business, a brand, and a global figure. Every decision he makes reaches far beyond a basketball court. That's a type of pressure that can be measured by hard fouls or physical contact. This is where the discussion becomes even bigger. It's no longer just about Scottie Pippen and LeBron James. It's about how greatness should be measured. Is greatness defined by dominating in a more physical era, or by adapting, evolving, and remaining elite across different eras? Pippen represents one side of that conversation, while LeBron represents the other. The reality is that both perspectives have valid arguments. Now connect that to today's NBA. The league is filled with young stars trying to build their own legacies. Players like Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum, and others are entering the prime of their careers. They're already dealing with enormous expectations. Social media reacts instantly, and public narratives form almost overnight. Through all of that, LeBron remains part of the conversation. He's still competing, still being compared, and still being judged. That's what makes this debate so compelling. Even at 41, LeBron continues to be the standard that other players are measured against. That alone shows he has lived under enormous expectations for longer than many players spend in the NBA. So when Pippen says LeBron has never faced real pressure, is he mistaken? Or is he simply defining pressure in a different way? That's the real debate. If pressure means constant physical punishment and the style of defense played in the 1990s, then Pippen's argument has some merit. But if pressure means living with non-stop expectations, constant scrutiny, and maintaining greatness over decades, then LeBron may be one of the strongest examples of it. In the end, the answer depends on perspective. Which kind of pressure matters more, the contact you take on the court or the weight you carry throughout your career?